Hello and welcome to Tuesday Night Live. I am Father Kent O'Connor and I am all by myself today. Just me tonight, sort of. I've got some great recorded segments I think that you'll enjoy, so I'm excited to share those with you. So welcome to Tuesday Night Live. It's the first time that I am flying solo. And we're going to try something different here. So this is January 28th, 2020. And what we're going to try to do here is we'll have a session that is recorded that will be live, and then we'll have a session that is recorded section with Michael Sheerin. So he's going to appear here in a little bit as we're going to have our topic of faith. Our topic of faith this evening is about the spiritual responsibilities of parenthood. I think it's a good video segment, and I hope that you enjoy it very much. So that's what's coming up here. So I'd like to share a little bit, first of all, about my prayer findings. It looks like I don't have a graphic on there at the moment. But I will put up this little piece right here. And my my brother-in-law got me a book called Contemplative Provocations. This came, look, it's back to back. There, and it's hiding. There it is. Contemplative Provocations, and this has been kind of my meditation book for this time after Christmas. And you can see my bookmark, which you might recall from last week. I was talking about Cal Ripken Jr. and his devotion to just being consistently and always available. Always doing his job as a shortstop or a third baseman there for the Baltimore Orioles. So here's my bookmark. But anyway, I'd like to share a little bit of my prayer findings with you that I have taken from this book. Once again, I am live right now, so if you would like to give me any comments or feedback, I am here on the chat. And I will be live this whole show myself, even though there will be some recorded segments. You can still type in. In this Contemplative Provocations, one of the first things that he was talking about is the hiddenness of God. The hiddenness of God. And that really stuck with me, how God likes to hide from us. And sometimes we don't like that. It sometimes seems, why would God do such a thing? But I was inspired, I was thinking about... over Christmas, I got together with my sister and her family, and we were playing a little game. I think we were playing Hide the Elmo, which is a little Elmo figure, and we were hiding it around the room. And I have some nieces. My sister has 3 children, with a 4th one on the way, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and then not quite 1-year-old. And so we were playing this Hide the Elmo game, and you've probably all played it. You put the little figure or something, it's kind of like an Easter egg or whatever. You put it somewhere, and the other person tries to find it, right? And you say colder or warmer or whatever. And at this age, they weren't particularly great at the game, especially the hiding part. And my then 2-year-old niece was playing Hide the Elmo, and she would hide it. And then I would come and I'd open up my eyes and I'd go look, and she's like, there it is, it's right there. And it was really cute, but it wasn't really fun, right? Because she just automatically told me where the Elmo was, and I wanted to play the game. I wanted to go on the search. And that's what's exciting. It's compelling, right? So this Father Donald Haggerty kind of talks about God in the same way, not about hiding Elmo, but the idea of God as a hidden God. And where we sometimes kind of take offense at that is, why isn't God clearer? Why isn't God giving me a huge sign about his presence? Why isn't he clearer about what he's asking of us? I think part of that is because God knows us, and God knows that it's more fun, it's more exciting, it's more beautiful when we go on the hunt, when we go on the search. So that was kind of my prayer finding, is the invitation to continue to go deeper, to search, and enjoy that. And just because God seems hidden, just because I'm not getting any great revelations in prayer or anything, doesn't mean that God isn't present. It's God summoning us deeper and closer. So that's kind of my prayer finding for the week and kind of the introduction to the show today. This is, again, Contemplative Provocations. I will put it in the show notes. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go to a recorded segment. So I was talking with Michael Sheerin, my co-host for the show. Hey, I'll even throw up that little graphic. We are at Tuesday Night Live. Michael Sheerin and Father Kent O'Connor, even though he is not present this evening, we have a recorded segment where we talked about the spiritual responsibilities of parenthood. What we're trying to do is trying to go a little bit deeper, having a little bit more meat to the show, and so we're talking about some topic, which can be kind of media-inspired. We have been inspired by something that we've seen on the media, so this kind of replaces our media finding segment in a way. And we're just going to talk about that topic of faith. So without further ado, let me see if I can bring in Michael for our special segment today, the about the spiritual responsibilities of parenthood. And here we go. All right, well, here we are in our special segment here. This is a pre-recorded segment.
Thank you, future Kent.
Yes,
now back to you, past Kent.
Right. So, yes, we are recording this on the same night as last week, so it is still last week for us now.
We don't always wear the same clothes.
Well, I almost do, but
yeah, lucky.
But I've got this nice pullover.
You all know what I'm talking about. If we knew what we were going to wear every day, it would save us a lot of headache. Sorry, fashion world. You'd really be hurt by that.
So today, what we're going to try to do is we're going to do a little faith topic or a topic of faith each week and kind of have that kind of be the meat of our conversation, that we want to have a meatier conversation, at least for part of the show. And we can talk about our personal interests as well. But
and if you're vegetarian or vegan, a very delicious vegan or vegetarian treat.
It's the impossible Tuesday Night Live,
right? Yes, absolutely.
So our topic of faith tonight is the spiritual responsibilities of parenthood. And this was an idea that was suggested by Michael. I thought it was a great idea, and we wanted to have a conversation. We're going to be spending a lot of time here in the Catechism. I'm showing you my Catechism, and as no cover, I've used it too much.
It's a beautiful thing when you've read the covers off the book.
Oh, there you go.
That's what it looks like before, and this is what it looks like after. So if you were ever wondering, does our parish priest read the Catechism? So much so, the pages fall off.
That's right. So we're going to jump right in, and there's a whole special, kind of a section in the 2000. So the Catechism, by the way, FYI, in case we didn't talk about this last week, or we did, I think, but it's organized into paragraph numbers, and they're not exactly even paragraphs. It's just that's the way it's organized. So you might that's not that's like 3 paragraphs, but it's still the paragraph number.
Yeah,
that's how the Catechism is organized. It's by paragraph number because it's not by page number because you've got universal editions that go around all the world or whatever, and so you want to have be on the same page, which isn't necessarily the same page number.
Yeah.
See, so you got the same paragraph number, so you can follow along.
So if you have somebody that's reading in another dialect or other thing, they're reading the same thing in their own language, which may take twice as long as far as the number of words to say the same thing.
But then also even there's smaller editions or whatever, but it's the same stuff, but it's just the page numbers are different. So.
Yeah.
All right, so there we go. So
to the
let's jump right in.
Or vegan main course.
That's right.
That is. Today we're talking about the spiritual responsibilities of parents. Oftentimes, as parents, we know we've got to feed them, clothe them, shelter them, and make sure that they don't die. But there's more.
Right.
You believe it or not, there are more things we're called to than making sure they don't die and making sure they make it to the next day.
I want to share a little story when you're talking about that.
Go for it.
That I go on vacation with these good friends of mine sometimes in the books, and I remember my good friend Mike Book. We just gotten back from we went all the way to Kentucky that year, and this is probably going to be that's standard stuff for parents, but I don't have. I mean, I'm a father, right? And I have spiritual kids, but I don't have the real kids that have diapers and stuff. But And yeah, I just remember we came back from this long trip for Kentucky, and him just staring there in the kitchen, realizing that there was a meal to be served, and I was like, I've got to put something in my kid's mouth because they need nutrition. And that experience just sticks with me. I'm sure he has to do that quite a bit. But,
yeah.
But for me,
almost daily.
Yes, but I don't. It was just a good reminder of that's like what normal people do, and and I don't have to think about that very often. So yes,
okay.
there's more responsibilities than just the feeding of the children. Parents have spiritual responsibilities, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, so. It turns out you want your kids to go to heaven because if we're going to be with people for eternity, we'd probably want our families there.
True.
Yeah.
So
one quick initial point I want to make. We got to know what a family is. And a family is the conjugal community is established on the consent of spouses. So it is we say yes to each other. And husband and wife says yes. And from that, marriage and the family are ordered to the good of the spouses and to the procreation and education of children. So
you can see that right there on that screen.
Yeah, you cannot have just the procreation. You got to get the education there too.
That's right.
Which we tend to focus a lot on the procreation part of it, which
it's important. Sure,
it's important. It's fun. It's all those good things. But the education is exactly part of it. And if without the education, you would never, you would just say, oh, we're raising children forever, not raising adults. And we really do want adults in the church. It turns out those are the best parts. So let's dive right in. So if you want to join us, we are on paragraph 2223. And if you have the same version of the catechism as us, it's page 537.
Yeah.
But parents have the first responsibility for the education of their children. They bear witness to this responsibility first by creating a home where tenderness, forgiveness, respect, fidelity, and disinterested service are the rule.
Those are great. It's a great list. Forgiveness, respect, fidelity, and disinterested service and tenderness. Yeah.
So it's a great checklist to read through at the end of every night and say, first, did I offer tenderness to my loved ones, right? Mm-hmm. It's not of all the virtues, masculine tenderness probably isn't ranked high in the world's view of what a father is supposed to do. But when you see a father holding his son or his daughter, there is tenderness there. It may not take the form or the factor. Sometimes it's in the form of wrestling with your kids. But that presence of just being with your children and them knowing, that's where we got those wonderful old phrases where you'd be like, my dad can beat up your dad, right? Because in our children's eyes, the father and the mother are just rock stars. They're just, if you ever wanted to know someone who's going to unquestionably think you're the bee's knees, right? There is no other phase of life, no other place in life you can find people that when you come through the door will run to greet you. It just doesn't exist. I've absolutely looked, and I've looked, and I've looked, and I've looked, and I've looked, and no one has come running to me, so much so that they've injured me sometimes with the content.
Well, that's kind of how Father Ashmore is at the rectory. I come back home and there goes,
that's you! I mean, maybe you're dogs, but that's the reason people like dogs, right? But the value of being a parent, having that first, is to have tenderness, forgiveness, respect. Just go through the list each night with your kids and just think about your day. Like, did I interact with my spouse with tenderness, forgiveness, respect, fidelity, disinterested service? But the better part of this is also understanding that there's a discipline that you have to put yourself under in order to actually apply these things.
Okay.
Because you cannot, just like you cannot advance in holiness without prayer.
Right.
There's a discipline there. You cannot advance in the quality of your parenting without an apprentice. It says it right here. In self-denial, sound judgment, and self-mastery. The preconditions of all true freedom. Self-denial, sound judgment, and self-mastery. Mm-hmm. And guess what? None of these are achieved quickly.
Right.
Just ask any saint.
Right. There was Father Bishop Barron shares this story often. Maybe I've shared it here even, but I think it was Tiger Woods or some golf player. Every season he would go to his trainer and say, "Treat me as someone who doesn't know how to play golf at all," and he'd start that all over. And we think of like a great golf player like Tiger Woods. Oh, he doesn't need that. He's already mastered.
Yeah.
He's won the Masters, right?
Yeah. He's mastered the Masters.
But if even Tiger Woods needs to come back again and again to the great teachers to learn how to do it again, how much more do we, who I am no Tiger Woods in spirituality,
No.
that how much more do I need to do that as well? So it doesn't come over. Come overnight.
And here's the thing. Even if you were,
yes,
the moment at which you think you are,
right,
you've lost it all.
Sure,
right. And so that's the beauty of our faith, is that no matter at what stage of polishing you're at, you can always get shinier, you can always get more beautiful, and in the eyes of the Lord, you can always pursue another level of humility.
Right.
Or if you're a student of Saint Teresa of Avila, there's always one level deeper in the spiritual castles, right? And so that's the point of this, is to make ourselves, learn to deny ourselves, create good sound judgment for ourselves first, so that once we've mastered ourselves, we're presenting an example, not do as I say, not as I do, but an example of a life worth living.
Right.
And that's going to bring about the relationships you're hoping for. That's going to bring about the types of people you want to be surrounded by. And your children will have no choice but to see how it's done and apply it to themselves.
Yep. I sometimes talk in the, sometimes I give instruction, like in the sacrament of reconciliation. Mm-hmm. We think about the commandment of honor your father and your mother, right?
Yeah.
And we sometimes think that is that's just for the kids, right? And it's like, or if your parents are
you're just
deceased,
thinking about your parents,
right?
You're not thinking about me as a parent,
right? So I sometimes challenge parents: are you living a life that your children want to honor, right? So. I use that also in the Ephesians passage where it says, "Husbands, love your wives, and wives be submissive to your husbands."
Do you have it?
I do.
Do you have that passage?
I think I do. It's everyone's favorite passage where it says, "Wives, be submissive to your husband, be subordinate to your husband." And when I talk about that passage, I talk about it. It's not an invitation for wives to be subordinate to everything. That's how it's been misinterpreted for years, I think, or been twisted, right? It's not like, well, my husband says so I guess I have to. That's not what it says, because it starts off with husbands, or it finishes up with husbands love your wives. So the point is, wives, let your husbands love you. That's the idea. And if the husband is doing anything else but loving you, off the table. Doesn't have to be subordinated to. That's the idea.
But if we're saying the word love, you know that I'm going to say it. We have to talk about what love is, because we have a lot of counterfeits. Watch any Netflix movie and you'll see a myriad of love counterfeits.
So what is love? Baby, don't hurt me.
Love? What is love, baby?
Baby, don't hurt me.
Had a way. Yeah. I had a way to figure that out, but I just can't. Yeah.
That might be a topic. That's a topic for another day. But yes.
Bad joke? It's out. But love in the church teaching is a free and full, fruitful, and faithful gift of self. It is the perfect image of God the Father. It is the perfect image of God the Son. And it's the perfect image of the Holy Spirit. They give themselves without reservation, freely, fully, faithfully, and fruitfully.
Yeah.
Open to the life, right? And so that's the type of love that we have to image within our parenting. And to honor the father and mother, it's so much more easy to honor them when they're giving to you with an example of that true love.
Right. So that commandment then, right, it follows that you honor your parents in so much as they are loving you and they are teaching you the way of God. Are you obedient to your parents if they tell you to, I don't know, go beat up the neighbors or whatever? I'm not going to honor that, right?
Yeah.
That's outside the realm of that. But sometimes I think that parents will sometimes do I mean, that's obvious, but they will do sometimes subtler things that do not encourage holiness, do not encourage growth in virtue.
Yeah.
And children don't need to honor that. Let's say use an example of my parents don't go to Mass, it's not important to them. Well, I'm going to honor them, so I'm going to stay home too. Well, no, a child who might be like 16 maybe can get to Mass by himself.
Yeah.
Well, you go to Mass by yourself
because
they are not leading you in the way of virtue that they're supposed to be leading you.
Correct.
But so that's what
and that's kind of the nature of why, as a parent, it is so important. So if you look at the bottom of 22:23, it says, "Parents have a grave responsibility."
Grave responsibility.
Like your life is at stake on this, right? A grave responsibility to give good example to their children.
Right.
By knowing how to acknowledge their own failings to their children, right? Here were my shortcomings and I struggled with this, and I don't want you to struggle with this. So I'm going to share what I've learned through pain of life, right? I've white martyred into this so much, I don't want to have this. I don't want you to learn by having to do it. I want you to learn through my example and the pain that it caused me. By knowing how to acknowledge their own failings to their children, parents will be better able to guide and correct them. So this is where it gets into the examples in Scripture. It says, "He who loves his son will not spare the rod. He who disciplines his son will profit by him. And fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and the instruction of the Lord." I always feel like you have to, whoa, when you're reading old Scripture. But that's the point. Is like, don't, as a father, as a parent, you want to bring about the best in your children,
right?
And so you have to also discipline them when they fall off the path. And I think the thing that Sarah always says to me that's really just, it's beautiful. You have to pick a punishment that is relevant to the problem, right? If they're planning on making a mess of the food at the table, which my children have a blast radius of food at our meals, they can also have the responsibility of cleaning up that mess afterwards. Which is humbling for children to have to pick up the apple core that happened to hit the other room.
But it's relative to the...
But it fits within the context. You did this, now you're cleaning up that mess. Wasn't that fun? Is learning fun? What's the G.I. Joe, right?
Learning is half the battle?
Learning is half the battle, yeah. So, then that was something good.
Learning
but this is
battle,
also then brings the...
Something that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, but we get the point. Yeah. So it's a battle sometimes to learn things. But this also then brings into the point you were going to talk about, which was...
I was going to mention 22, 26 also, that the importance of those young years. It says education in the faith by the parent should begin in the child's earliest years. I remember there was a study or something I read years ago, but something like we do the most learning, we learn the most in our whole life in the first 2 years of our life than the whole rest of our life in sum or whatever. That those first 2 years we learn more than the whole rest of our life. Something along those lines. I have to look up that study again, but I remember that blew my mind. Because that importance, I mean, and who is with the children in those 2 years? It's not the Catholic school, that's for darn sure. We're not taking 1-year-olds. It's the parents, and how do you teach a child who is only 6 months? You have to start right away of living yourself a life of virtue and helping them to see what love is. So, if a child comes to a Catholic school, let's say in kindergarten at 5 or maybe 6 years old, they've already had a whole bunch of teaching. So the parents are the first teachers in the way of faith. It doesn't start with the school. It doesn't start with religious education we have great programs for those. But if that's not supported by what's happening in the home, we are spinning our wheels a lot, right?
Oh yeah, I agree entirely.
I mean, if it's not happening in the home, it's not helping. Some people talk about, what's wrong with our Catholic schools, or we got all this bad behavior or whatever.
Yeah,
I think the schools can take some of the responsibility.
Yeah,
but sometimes there's some real bad stuff going on in the home and stuff, and
it's difficult.
We need our parents to.
We're also
step
at
up.
an all-time high in divorces, right? We're at an all-time high in a lot of the other challenges that come into these kids' lives, right? And, at a divorce, a child is robbed in many ways of having that full sampling of a single unit, and it becomes two again, right?
Or not even divorce, but even let's say someone was
or death
or something. It's not ideal, of course.
It wasn't the intended way, and
right.
so it's meant for parents to really take that responsibility quite seriously, because you are bringing about what that person will be.
Right.
Right. You're not writing a list of things down that, hey, you're 6 years old now. Here's the list of rules. Now that you can read it, here's the list of rules, right? No, they're going to do as you do. They're not going to do as you say.
And let's talk about vocation for a moment. Can I talk about vocation for a moment? Right. So, I meet with a lot of couples for marriage prep and everything, and sometimes I think in our society, people want to do it all, right? They want to do this and that, and they want to be a great financial advisor or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
It's good to...
I'm one of those.
Right? You are a great financial advisor.
I think I'm pretty good at it, right. Yeah.
But that's not your vocation.
Mm-mm.
And sometimes people...
That's a little V.
Right.
Vocational school. They may have robbed that word incorrectly, but yeah.
But I remind couples over and over again, your vocation, your mission in life is, first of all, to your spouse, and then second of all, to your children, and then to family beyond that. And if your priority in life is just to be a good financial advisor or whatever, don't get married. Go be a great financial advisor. But if you want to really live marriage life, then go whole hog and and put that as your primary thing. Yeah. And I think too often we try to do it all. We want to do this and that, and we don't put our focus on the relationships that really matter.
Father Ashmore regularly tells me this.
Okay.
Because, the beauty of when you get to know people, you just they stop pulling punches, which is what I love about you both. You both are fantastic at saying, have you thought about this? And it usually is something I haven't thought about. But when we're talking about the marriage of vocation or the priesthood or the devoted single life, right? The one thing that we didn't talk about prior is that your first duty is to the Lord.
Sure.
Right? So all of us first have to realize that even though we're in a parent role at this point, in one of those roles, we can be a parent role in many of those, but we first have to know that we are sons and daughters of God.
Right.
Right? And our faith was an inheritance that was given to us.
Right.
And so in order to honor that, which this goes perfectly into my last little point here.
Okay.
Which, if you go all the way to paragraph 2340.
On the screen.
Whoever wants to remain faithful to his baptismal promises and resist temptations will want to adopt the means for doing so. They are as follows. Self-knowledge, practice of an ascesis adapted to the situations that confront him. That means living these things in real life, right? So the self-knowledge, practice of an ascesis adapted to the situations that confront him. Obedience to God's commandments, exercise of the moral virtues, and fidelity to prayer. So if we were to describe everything that the saints had in common, everything that our apostles, right, the people that helped us form this church, and that we're inheritors of, right? This is an inheritance, and it's a gift that we've been given. This is the most concise list of what did they all apply, right? In order to be those parents, by example, that can show the tenderness, what were the phrases? Tenderness, forgiveness, respect, fidelity, and disinterested service. And those who require an apprentice in self-denial, sound judgment, and self-mastery, here's what those things are in plain English. Grow in self-knowledge, practice the skills that you've learned in that self-knowledge, and in line with God's commandments, practice those things in the situations of life that confront you, right? Be courageous enough to live out your faith, exercise the moral virtues, and have fidelity to prayer.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Yeah, come on, guys. If I can't, if I can, I'm not too smart, but if I can figure out that this is good, then it's something there. Indeed, it is through, and this was actually in the subsection of the integrity of a person, under the subsection of chastity, but it says, indeed, it is through chastity that we are gathered together and led back to the unity from which we were fragmented into multiplicity. And we don't want to be divided, right?
No.
To talk about that during, right? Last week was the week of Christian unity. We want to bring back this fragmented part of ourself and multiplicity back into the unity that God offers us. And the only way we can do that is by doing the things here. Self-knowledge, practice of an ascesis, adapt to the situations that it confront, obedience to God's commandments, exercise the moral virtues, and fidelity to prayer.
Very good.
That's what we got.
That's what we got for tonight. So thanks for tuning in. I guess I'm supposed to send it back to the me of the future again.
Back to you, Father Future Kent.
If you have any comments, I think I forgot to mention that. But hopefully, future me mentioned that you can leave those comments.
And if you're wanting to know what book we've been pulling this from, if you're tuning in late,
that's
the Catechism of the Catholic Church.
All right, back to you, future me. Well, here I am. I am future and present. So hopefully you enjoyed that segment about the spiritual responsibilities of parenthood. I thought it was a good discussion, and I was happy to kind of hash that out with Michael last week. I'd like to do a little bit, just a follow-up with a bit more of media findings. In that same kind of theme, I had the opportunity, a great opportunity, to hear a presentation by this guy by the name of Roy Petitfils. I'm not sure if I'm saying that name correct, but that's what it looks like. It's Petitfils. I'll put that in the show notes. But he's got a podcast called Today's Teenager. He's a Catholic counselor, LPC. And it's great stuff about how do you talk with teenagers about various things. So if you are a parent with teenagers, that can seem a little bit overwhelming. He's got great insight about just what's going on in today's world. It's different than all of us when we were growing up, and unless, of course, you're a teenager watching this. But when we were growing up, it was just a different world, and I think we all know that, and we can't apply the same principles. So he really does some great studies and just great work. He works as a counselor and knows his teenagers pretty well, and he's got kids of his own. So anyway, I recommend this podcast. You can get it on Apple or wherever you can find your podcasts. I imagine it's on Spotify, but just look where you can get your podcasts. I'll put it in the show notes as well. Today's Teenager is my kind of media recommendation to follow up with that theme that we have today. Well, it is time to go local. Let me throw up my graphic here. And this is where we have the song that goes, "Let's go local," right there. That's supposed to appear, but I haven't composed that yet. But it is Catholic Schools Week, Catholic Education Week, and we have a great both faith formation for those who are not attending our Catholic school, and also a great Catholic school. So last week I did a little bit of interviewing of some of our teachers and some of our kids. So I'm going to throw on this next segment here about Catholic Schools Week. And so first of all, we're going to start off with just talking with a few of our faith formation teachers, those that do School of Religion, the after-school program, and also many of them teach on Sunday. I asked them what do they love about what they do, and we have very dedicated volunteers, and so I wanted to let them appear on the show here. So we will go to them now.
It gets me closer to my faith and brings me back to some of the things that I learned that maybe I haven't.
We are going to try that again. I'll make an edit there. I forgot to make a little click here, so we're going to start at the beginning and try that again.
So here we are. All right, why did I like teaching second grade religious education class? Well, because the kids are brilliant, and my 8 is very smart, and I love the kids. They're a blast. And if you work with adults all day, it's a pleasant change.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks for all you're doing. Happy Catholic Education Week.
My pleasure.
Well, hello. Happy Catholic Education Week. And what do you teach?
I teach confirmation to 8th graders.
Awesome. Very good. There are some of them over here, but we'll keep them off the screen. So So what do you love about doing what you do?
First of all, I love kids. I love being around kids. I love the fact that I can learn with the kids. Some of the things that I teach, it gets me closer to my faith and brings me back to some of the things that I learned that maybe I haven't visited in a while. So that's one of the things I love. And I love when they understand something and then how we can relate Catholicism to their everyday life and the things they're going through as middle schoolers or high schoolers. So that's what I love.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. So tell us, what do you teach and why do you love what you do?
Right. My name is Mike Rosales, and I'm teaching the 4:30 confirmation class here on Wednesdays at Good Shepherd's Parish. And I enjoy doing this because the students are souls that I look at as souls that want to and need to be saved. And I enjoy it a lot because it gives me the opportunity to also learn more about my self and my religion, and it gives me the opportunity by doing that to read the Bible often and engage myself in more deeper prayer than I have before in my life. So those are some of the reasons why I enjoy doing it. They're high school students, and I know that this is an important formative part of their life. So.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you. And we'll switch right over here.
Oh my gosh. Hi, I'm Kurt Wickman, and I teach also confirmation class that focuses on the 8th graders at 6:15 every Wednesday. And I receive great grace, I think, from teaching 8th grade. It's a challenge for me, but I feel like I learn so much from the various topics that we cover. So it's a way of deepening my Catholic faith. It's a way of also, we're supposed to give time, treasure, and talent. So I'm not sure if I have much talent, but I enjoy it tremendously. I receive great benefit from each of the kids. Their struggles are also my struggles to understand and to make clear some of the teachings of the church. And so bottom line, it's a great joy for me. I think I get more out of it than they do, certainly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So here we are.
All right.
Well, so that was several of our great volunteers here at the Faith Formation. So happy Catholic Schools Week to all those who teach at our School of Religion, and we have class tomorrow, so hopefully it'll be a great celebration for them as well. I also took a little bit of time to talk with our school kids, some of our school kids and teachers, and talk about why they love Good Shepherd Catholic School. So we will go to our next little clip here. Let me get that lined up here now. All right, happy Catholic Schools Week. We got some great students and teacher here. What do you love about Good Shepherd?
I like that it's a Catholic school and we get to go to all school mass.
Awesome. What do you love about Good Shepherd?
I like that we get to learn about God and Jesus.
Excellent. What do you love about Good Shepherd?
We get to wear uniforms.
Awesome. What do you love?
Go on field trips.
Awesome. Field trips. Very good. We got a new teacher here as well.
We've loved Good Shepherd for over 10 years now, and our kids have gone to school from preschool all the way up to 5th grade now, and I love being part of the community and sharing my faith with other staff members, parents, and students.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Happy Catholic Schools Week.
Thank you. You too.
Woohoo. Go. It's Catholic Schools Week. Why do you love Good Shepherd?
Because we get to learn about Jesus and we get to learn about math and stuff.
Awesome. It's a great school, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, we found a teacher in a native environment here for Catholic Schools Week. What do you love about Catholic Schools Week? Catholic schools. What do you love about being here at Good Shepherd?
Well, what I like being here at Good Shepherd the most is I think that we really create a very supportive environment for the children. I think the staff and the parents and the administrators all do a good job of working together to help meet each of the kids' needs. And I also just think it's a really fun place to work. The kids, they know how to have a good time. We bring in the technology and we try to do games or just researching, doing virtual tours of places like Ellis Island. And we just like to have fun with our technology in the classroom and learn in fun ways. So I like teaching here. It's a good place.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Happy Catholic Schools Week.
You bet.
Happy Catholic Education Week, Catholic Schools Week. So what do you love about Catholic schools? What do you love about Good Shepherd?
That there's nice teachers and they help us learn.
Well, is this one of our nice teachers right here?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Also mom?
Yes, also mom. I love Good Shepherd because we have a supportive principal and priests, and everyone is very helpful and kind, and we just love our students and love helping them learn.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Happy Catholic Schools Week. Here we go. So what are you going to say?
Well, so should I say that our kids don't listen at Good Shepherd?
No.
Should I say that our kids aren't kind to each other at Good Shepherd? How about that they aren't good students at Good Shepherd?
No.
I should say that we have kind students who are good listeners and good friends
Yes.
and love school.
Yes.
Okay, then that's what I'll say.
Awesome.
That's why I love Good Shepherd.
One. All right, here we are, Catholic Schools Week. What do you love about Good Shepherd?
Learning about my faith.
Awesome.
And I love our community and how much our children and families care for each other.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Happy Catholic Schools Week.
Happy Catholic Schools Week!
All right. I found a couple more teachers. So, hello. What do you love about Good Shepherd?
Well, I love that I get to share my faith every single day, and I get to help teach all of my students about it. In fact, today we were doing confirmation prep, and with my 8th graders, I was talking to them about what makes them happy, and I gave them the example of how I wanted to have passion and joy in my life. So I got into the teaching profession because I wanted to be happy, not because I wanted to make $1 million, but because I wanted to share my faith and my passion for teaching with all of them.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And what do you love about Good Shepherd? Another great teacher here.
I've enjoyed teaching at Good Shepherd for 20 years. I enjoy teaching all subjects, especially about my faith. I love the supportive staff. I know the staff as my colleagues, but also because they teach my children. My daughter is an 8th grader here, and I love the way that the teachers at Good Shepherd support my student.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Happy Catholic Schools Week.
Happy Catholic Schools Week.
All right. Happy Catholic Schools Week.
Well, so hopefully that was enjoyable. I thought it was really nice to see all those pictures and videos again from our teachers and our students. So that was nice. I I made sure that I had permission. I talked to those kids were all kids of our teachers, so I had permission to have them on here. So good to have them here and to talk about their love for Good Shepherd. So that's our Let's Go Local for today. We also had our trivia night last Saturday night, and I took some video footage for that, but I'm going to save that for next week to talk about trivia night. Boy, it was fun. So I'd like to show you some videos from that. So just kind of finally, we always talk a little bit about our personal interests. And this last week, I booked going to see a concert. I don't usually go out to see concerts, like rock concerts or whatever. But I've been always, for a long time, I've been a fan of a group called, and I know it's weird, but their name is the Bare Naked Ladies, or BNL for short. They're kind of an acoustic rock, kind of folk comedy band kind of thing. They're from Canada, and I've always really enjoyed their music and their humor, and so they're coming to Starlight. So they're coming with Gin Blossoms, who I really liked in college, and Toad the What Sprocket, who was one of my favorite bands in college as well. So it's going to be a fun night. Going with my brother-in-law, and it'll be at Starlight in July some point in time. So I put on Facebook that I was going to that, and several of my friends said, "Okay, we're gonna get tickets too." So hopefully I'll see some of you there at the concert. I'm looking forward to it. I've never seen the band Bare Naked Ladies in concert, and I hear they kind of do comedy and skits and stuff at their shows, and I heard that back when I was in the theater world. Someone was commenting about how great their shows were, and so I just want to. I'm excited to see their shows. So this past week, I booked a ticket for that and my brother-in-law to see that concert. So that's about it for our show this evening. Next week, neither Michael nor I will be here, so we will have another Tuesday Night Live Housemate edition. So I will record Sarah, Michael's wife, and Father Ashmore, my housemate at the rectory, and we will have a show there. I'm excited to see what they're going to come up with. So that'll air next week, and then the following week there will just be no show for Tuesday Night Live. I'm going to Columbia, and hopefully I'll put in a little segment next week for the personal interests before I leave to talk more about why I'm going to Columbia. So tune in next week for that. So we will be, we'll have a show for next week, and then 2 weeks we will not. And then Michael and I will be back live in 3 weeks. So let's end with a prayer, as we always do. And I opened with prayer before we went live, and now since I'm the only one here, I guess I am also closing with prayer. So let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to share our faith, to share our passion, to share the beauty that we can participate in your faith and in teaching our youth and growing in our faith. We ask that you would be with us this evening, be with our families, help us to live as faithful members of society, faithful members of our family, and faithful members of our faith. We ask you would bless us and bless all. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, thanks again for tuning in, and I hope you have a blessed week, and I will see you next time.